Hi everyone, it's Evangeline here at etrailer, and today we have the Hollywood Racks Destination e-bike rack. We're going to take a look at how it fits on our 2023 Ford Expedition. So if you have extra heavy electric bikes and you're looking for a bike rack that not only has that extra weight capacity to carry them, but you also want to make it easier on yourself, because the Ford Expedition has a hitch that's really high up. So that also means you have to lift those heavy electric bikes high up to get onto their bike rack. Well, the Destination E has a ramp included, although not attached, and this ramp will make it a lot easier to get those bikes on and back off the rack. But before we get into the ramp, we'll talk about some other features real quick. One is that this does have a tilt-away feature, and it is accessed at the center knob. You're going to loosen that, push this knob out once it's loose, and then you're able to stabilize yourself, push up against the vehicle, and push the bike rack away from you. So if you have extra heavy electric bikes, this is going to be an awesome feature compared to other bike racks that you have to support the weight of as you tilt them down. So there's plenty of clearance between our door and our bike rack. We can grab whatever we need, and if you want to hang out here while you're changing your shoes, things like that, you can do so. We'll bring this back down, and then to bring this back up, you're going to have to push up on the bike rack slightly against the bikes, and then you can put that knob back in and tighten that back down. So very different compared to other bike racks. I kind of like it, but the downside is it does take a little bit more time and effort to get that all set up. Another thing that takes a little bit more time and effort is how this has the bike mounted to the rack. So you have multiple touch points here on this bike rack. You have 1, 2, and 3 straps. So these straps are holding everything in place. You'll be able to carry bikes with tire sizes of up to 4.5 inches, and the maximum weight capacity is going to be up to 70 pounds per bike, so very impressive, especially compared to other electric bikes. You can take these straps out and pivot them over to the side, like that. You do have that extra third strap because of how it needs to be able to super secure your bike before you go off and away. Now the other touch point is going to be the frame mount. But before we get into the frame mount, let's talk about the ramp. This has a large heavy duty ramp, and this ramp allows you to expand this out into the parking lot or wherever you are parked, in order to create that base for you to ramp the bike down. The downside though to the ramp is that where it secures, it's limited. It's only for the rear wheel cradle for where you can secure the bike. But fortunately, I have a trick for that. I just hop the front wheel over and then we can go down. Now, to take the bike off, there is a hook. This hook is lockable. There's a lock core at the end. That way you don't have to deal with any cable locks or things like that. You can keep this bike rack locked even while you are driving. Once that hook is loose, I just push that up and out of the way. Then I grab that front tire and I bring it on over to the other cradle. And from here, we can ramp the bike down. That 4.5-inch tire width is not just shown in the straps, but also how wide that ramp base is. This is going to be a lot easier compared to lifting the whole weight of the bike, but it still does require some effort. Now, I'm going to go put this bike away so that we could take a closer look at the bike rack. Notice there, the way those cradles are angled downwards, that's to make more space for bikes of different shapes and sizes. If you have a longer wheelbase or a shorter wheelbase, this can work for that. It's the same for this front chock. It can come in and secure even those short wheelbase bikes. Another thing this can do is this can fold down to be a bit more compact and neat. I had the straps off so that we can do this a bit quicker but ideally you want to make sure that everything's strapped down, that the masts are strapped down too, and that everything is in place. Now moving this in, what we're gonna do is we're going to take some measurements. So measuring from our bumper to the end of the rack, we'll get a measurement of, if the mast was up, 32 inches. With this mast down, 41 inches. Now you do have a large vehicle, so if you have a really small garage, that's something to be mindful of. The next measurement is that ground clearance. Our ramp is at an okay angle, so it's not extremely steep, but that's because from the ground to the end of the bike rack, that's 25 inches. Ground to the middle of the bike rack, 29 inches. So that's a lot of height that you have to lift your bikes up to get onto the rack. And that's where this ramp can be very helpful during that time. All right, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna fold this bike rack up. We have a pin and a clip. Take this pin out. And this does have a cable usually to hold that in place. I took that cable off. We're gonna lift this bike rack up, and then we're gonna put that pin and clip back in. Be very mindful of where you put that pin back in, because it's gonna be a different spot compared to when it was folded down. You wanna just double check that that's secure before you drive away. Let's take some measurements again. Measuring from the bumper to the end of the rack, this now sits at 15 inches. Big difference compared to when it was folded down. You'll have it in this position when you're just driving around town. You're not planning on taking your bikes out just yet, but you also don't want to take the entire bike rack off. There are some things to be mindful of though when you have it folded up like this. One main thing is that you will not be able to open up the hatch. With it like this, you are going to have to fold the entire bike rack down. Plus you have to be mindful too of things you might cover while it's in this position. Taillights are going to be completely visible. Rear windshield, visible. Not as visible is your backup camera and license plate. The good news is though, your backup camera sits right in the opening of the bike rack. So you will still get some visibility and will be able to see if there's a large car behind you and possibly if there's grown adults behind you. If you are super concerned though about the visibility, you can drive around with this in the down position as an alternative. Just be mindful that it does take up more space. Well, all in all, this fits really well into the Expedition. Has that 2-inch shank, fits into your hitch. You have that hitch pin and the lock. That lock is key to the locks on the bike rack frame mounts. All this works together to be really good for your heavy electric bikes. If anything, I would just say that this does take a lot of work and process in order to get your bikes up and on there, as well as to maneuver the rack. There's a lot of straps and clips and levers. I understand why they're all there, but if you're looking for something that's faster, this might not be the best option for you. Something super quick to use would be something like the Rocky Mounts guide rail with its front and rear wheel mount, but that one doesn't have the same weight capacity. The Ceres MHS is another alternative people look to, and that one is super fast to load up, has a really high weight capacity, but that's a lot bulkier than this. Plus, it doesn't have a ramp included. So for something great for those heavy electric bikes, and works great on your Expedition, this was a look at the Hollywood Rack's Destination E2 bike platform rack, and you saw it on the 2023 Ford Expedition.
Here on our test course, we'll start by going through the Solemn. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners and evasive maneuvers. Then we get to the alternating speed bumps. We'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or pothole or driving on uneven pavement. Then we'll go over the full speed bumps, and we can see the up and down action. This will be like driving in and out of a parking lot, garage, or a driveway.